Well, well, well. Look who turned an entire city into the punchline of the century. You, the unstoppable provocator, the gloriously chaotic force of nature, took a meticulously orchestrated municipal campaign and spun it into a legendary origin story. The mayor, the police, the neighborhood council. They thought they had you cornered, scripting your downfall, drafting the final act of your existence in their sterile suburban fantasy. But instead they were unwittingly writing the script for your blockbuster comedy special. Citation needed. Every warrant, every citation, every sanctimonious HOA letter became your raw material, your comedic gold. While they toiled to build a case against you, you were crafting an empire from their collective incompetence, turning their bureaucracy into your masterpiece. Picture this: they held official city council meetings about you, complete with printed agendas and meticulously recorded minutes. The mayor cleared his schedule to strategize your demise, as if you were some mastermind threatening their orderly little world. The police chief diverted resources from actual crimes to tail you, like you were a supervillain in a low-budget thriller. The neighborhood watch. They became your personal paparazzi, documenting your every move as if you were a celebrity caught in a scandal. And you were quietly taking notes, cataloging their every misstep, every overreach, every gloriously absurd blunder. The real punchline: they created the very monster they feared before their crusade began. You were just living your life, maybe a bit louder, a bit bolder, a bit too real for their cookie-cutter utopia, but they made it personal. They declared you public enemy number one over what? A few parking tickets, a noise complaint or two. The sheer audacity of existing while refusing to conform to their beige bureaucratic dream. This wasn't random harassment. It was a coordinated campaign, a flowchart with your name circled in red at the top. The mayor's nephew just happened to be the officer who kept knocking on your door, citing you for suspicious loitering in your own driveway. The HOA president's wife just happened to work in the permit office that kept losing your applications or delaying them with vague, contradictory excuses. Coincidence? Please. They thought they were slick, as if you wouldn't notice the same 3 unmarked cars trailing you to the grocery store, or the early morning flash of a camera snapping photos of your front yard at 6 a.m. They underestimated your intelligence while wildly overestimating their own. A classic error as old as hubris itself. But you became a one-person intelligence agency. Every passive-aggressive email, every concerned citizen voicemail laced with thinly veiled threats, every accidental piece of mail that found its way into your mailbox, you documented it all, not out of spite, but because absurdity, when pushed to its limits, becomes art. You saw the comedy in their desperation, the poetry in their pettiness, and as they escalated, oh how they escalated, you refused to crack. Each new citation, each new violation signed personally by the mayor, as if he were autographing his own descent into farce, only made them look more ridiculous. The police chief started attending neighborhood meetings just to glower at you from across the room, his face a cartoonish mask of frustration. Without realizing it, they were transforming themselves into caricatures, unwitting characters in the story you were scripting. Then came the pivot, the moment when their petty tragedy morphed into a dark comedy masterpiece. You didn't fight back the way they expected. You didn't scream, sue, or throw punches. Instead, you did something far more dangerous. You laughed. Not a nervous chuckle or a bitter scoff, but a sharp, knowing laugh. The kind that says, I see through your nonsense, and it's hilarious. They'd banked on your rage because rage leads to mistakes. But laughter is clarity. It's power. With that laugh, you saw the matrix code of their operation. And suddenly, comedy gold was everywhere. You started attending city council meetings, not to protest, but to sit in the front row, notebook in hand, smiling like the Cheshire Cat. They'd drone on about ordinances, clearly designed to target you, lawn height regulations, mailbox color codes, rules about excessive holiday decorations, and you just jotted down notes, occasionally chuckling at their transparent audacity. You became a living mirror, reflecting their absurdity back at them. The more you laughed, the more their confidence crumbled into confusion, then outright unease. They realized something chilling. You weren't just surviving their attacks, you were thriving on them. Every citation became a setup, every insult, a punchline, every desperate maneuver, a new chapter in the comedy special you were building in real time while they were playing checkers. You were mastering 4D chess with a comedic twist. Your evidence collection wasn't just thorough, it was a multimedia masterpiece. Video clips of cops coincidentally appearing wherever you went, like overzealous extras in a low-budget thriller, audio recordings of neighbors cloaking their threats in sugary platitudes, screenshots of the mayor's decade-old social media posts pontificating about law and order while posing with a beer bong at a frat party. You turned their persecution into performance art. A parking ticket became a prop. A court summons became a rehearsal. You even started live tweeting your interactions with law enforcement, and the internet ate it up. Nothing goes viral faster than incompetence captured in high definition. The neighborhood Facebook group became your comedy lab. They'd post furious rants about your unacceptable behavior, leaving your trash cans out an hour past curfew, planting wildflowers in your yard instead of approved shrubs, and you'd respond with razor-sharp sarcasm so perfectly crafted that even your haters had to admire the artistry. You turned their echo chamber into your amphitheater. The moderators couldn't ban you. You weren't breaking any rules. You were just being devastatingly clever, and then came the master stroke. You started thanking them publicly, sincerely, by name. Thank you, Mayor Johnson, for 6 months of comedy gold. A special shout-out to Officer Martinez, my most loyal groupie, and heartfelt gratitude to the HOA board for documenting my every move. It's been invaluable for my act. You turned their surveillance into your marketing department. Their obsession became your brand. The turning point came when a nervous intern at City Hall Googled your name. There it was, your Wikipedia page, a digital monument to their failure. Comedian and social commentator, known for transforming relentless municipal harassment into award-winning comedy, complete with citations, linked news articles, and glowing reviews of your underground shows where you workshopped the very material they'd unwittingly provided. The panic that swept through their ranks was a performance art piece in itself. Emergency meetings were called, legal teams scrambled, and someone in a fluorescent-lit conference room asked the million-dollar question, can we sue someone for telling the truth, too hilariously? Spoiler, they couldn't. The First Amendment is a beautiful thing, especially when wielded to roast petty tyrants with surgical precision. You weren't just telling jokes. You were building a historical record. Every punchline came with receipts. Every callback tied to a documented event. You turned their paper trail into your paper chase, their bureaucracy into your monument. People paid to see it. Your comedy shows sold out, with audiences howling at the absurdity of a city that tried to crush one person and ended up crushing itself. The fallout was delicious. The mayor's approval rating tanked, not because you uncovered some grand corruption scandal, but because you made him a walking punchline. He became a recurring character in your act. Mayor Bumbles, the living embodiment of inept leadership. His own grandchildren started quoting your material at Thanksgiving dinner. He'd lost something worse than an election. He'd lost the narrative. The police chief, he stepped down. Not because of an internal investigation, but because he couldn't go to the grocery store without someone reciting your bit about his undercover surveillance tactics. The HOA board dissolved after your viral segment on their emergency meeting over your inflatable lawn flamingo, and the HOA president, she packed up and moved to another state, but the memes followed her like a shadow. Now they can't hide anything from anyone anymore because you didn't just win a fight. You reshaped the entire battlefield for everyone who comes after you. What was supposed to be your quiet eraser became an explosion of influence, so loud it can never be muted. The irony is impossible to overstate. While they burn through hundreds of thousands in taxpayer dollars trying to smear your name, exile you from your own home, and paint you as a nuisance, you transform their crusade into millions in revenue, cultural relevance, and historical weight. They wanted you gone, but you carved yourself into history. They wanted you forgotten, but you made them infamous. Every relevant Wikipedia entry now preserves the story in digital stone, and every reader sees the absurdity for what it is, comedy gold, disguised as municipal incompetence. The mayor, in his farewell speech, bent over backward to avoid saying your name, but it didn't matter. Someone in the crowd shouted one of your catchphrases, the room erupted in laughter, and he had to stand on his own retirement stage, listening to the voice of the very person he had tried to destroy echo through his downfall. That moment wasn't just defeat, it was poetic justice, but with a laugh track that will outlive them all, and you, still living in the same house they once tried to force you. The Surtolv, to Pantudiu, set into a landmark, a place where pilgrims of comedy take selfies, a shrine to the day a single resident turned a city's vendetta into the greatest joke ever told. The property value in your neighborhood didn't just climb, it exploded, not because of a developer's vision or multi-million-dollar city plans, but because your story branded the block as sacred ground. The HOA that once treated you like a stain now shamelessly markets your legacy as a selling point, bragging in listings about living near the legendary comedy special while conveniently forgetting that they were the villains of that very story. But their hypocrisy can't erase their humiliation. Every award you collect, every tour you sell out, every glowing review that trends your name cuts them open again, a reminder that they accidentally handed you the keys to your empire. Once they acted in lockstep to frame you as villain, troublemaker, outsider. You flipped that narrative with such force that now they're relegated to permanent side characters, setups for your punchlines. And those punchlines don't fade. They pay dividends year after year. Your victory didn't just satisfy a personal vendetta, it proves something eternal and dangerous to anyone who thinks power is untouchable. That documentation beats intimidation, that humor dismantles harassment faster than rage, and that creativity can shred cruelty into ribbons. You didn't just outlast them, you rewrote the rules of engagement, whether they like it or not. Everyone in power now has to play by rules you authored. Police academies include the comedian effect as a training module. City councils now hire PR consultants to avoid creating the next viral folk hero. HOA boards hesitate before mailing that nitpicky violation letter, suddenly aware they might be giving birth to their own nemesis. You didn't just alter your city. You shifted how power operates in the modern era. Young comedians and creators study your saga as a blueprint. Workshops teach modules called Finding Humor in Harassment and Evidence as Entertainment. Academics assign papers on humor as resistance, citing your case as the prime example of satire outmuscling authority. Sociologists dissect your flip of the power dynamic without raising your voice. Historians already write your name into the lineage of activists who weaponized laughter across centuries. You became more than a comedian. You became a cultural force, a living parable, a cautionary tale to the powerful, and a beacon to the powerless. What began as a neighborhood dispute has become a global story told in classrooms, council chambers, and late-night specials. You built not only a career, but a movement, a method of protest that heals the protester, even as it dismantles the oppressor. Your Wikipedia page isn't a biography, it's a battle manual, a step-by-step blueprint for anyone facing institutional harassment. Document everything. Mind cruelty for comedy. Share the story until their lies collapse under the laughter. You turned their arsenal into your stage set, their attacks into your applause, their plots into your punchlines, and the world applauds, because harassment doesn't have to end in tragedy. It can end in triumph, in art, injustice delivered through laughter. The mayor now sits in disgrace. The eternal reaction gifs of your smirk during council meetings, screenshots of your sarcastic thank you notes, clips of the mayor sweating while you sat front row with your notebook. Entire Reddit threads dissect your strategies, while YouTube compilations of top 10 times they played themselves trying to destroy you rack up millions of views. Universities invite you to lecture, not just comedy programs, but law schools, sociology departments, political science seminars. Professors explain to their students that what you created wasn't just an act, it was jurisprudence wrapped in jokes, satire turned into case law by sheer public pressure. And the city has become inseparable from you. Tour guides can't mention the skyline without referencing your comedy special. The old council chambers are now rented out for corporate events, with your face painted as a mural on the back wall, an unignorable reminder that authority once unchecked was turned into a punchline by the very citizen it targeted. Restaurants name cocktails after you. Breweries design seasonal ales with your one-liners stamped on the cans. Travel blogs call your neighborhood the birthplace of resistance comedy, as if it were Selma or Woodstock. Property developers shamelessly pitch condos with taglines like "Live where history laughed." And that's the real legacy, permanence. Long after the mayor is dust, long after the HOA board members are footnotes in local archives, your story remains alive in the laughter of strangers continents away. You demonstrated that power's greatest weakness is ridicule, and that once mocked effectively enough, authority can never fully recover. No court ruling, no election result, no zoning ordinance will ever carry the same weight as a crowd roaring with laughter at the absurdity of those who once claimed control. Because laughter, true, unrestrained, collective laughter, is power in its purest form. It dismantles arrogance, melts fear, and levels hierarchies faster than any revolution. That laughter is eternal. It lives in recordings and memories, in classrooms and late-night conversations, in memes that circle the globe before breakfast. It travels through time, retold at bars, whispered at dinner tables, taught in lectures about art, justice, and resistance. And with every retelling, it grows larger, sharper, and more indestructible. So here you stand, not just a comedian, not merely a survivor, not even simply a legend, but living proof that monuments aren't always built from stone and steel. The greatest ones are made of stories that refuse to die. They're built in laughter that refuses to be silenced. They're carved into the hearts of people who found hope in your defiance. You didn't just change the battlefield, you redefined it. You rewrote its language, its rules, its mythology. What began as resistance became renaissance, a masterclass in turning mockery into movement, injustice into inspiration. And now, the world doesn't just remember your story, it lives inside it. Because in your victory, people see their own proof that even against towering power, creativity can still win. Generations from now, your laughter will still echo. It will be studied, quoted, mimicked, and cherished, not as entertainment, but as evidence. Evidence that art can outlast authority, that humor can outshine hatred, and that one person's refusal to bow can awaken courage in millions. If you've enjoyed this wild, defiant, laughter-soaked journey, I'd be truly grateful if you'd give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who loves stories of triumph wrapped in wit. Subscribe to keep this spirit alive, to fuel more tales that celebrate resilience and rebellion. And if you're feeling especially generous, any donation, no matter how small, helps keep the fire burning, the laughter echoing, and the truth shining. Thank you for being here, not just as a listener, but as part of the legacy.